So welcome to Hot News. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are also live on Facebook at Pan-African Television, as well as YouTube at Pan-African Television. We are also on about 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments, and contributions on our WhatsApp text line displayed on the screen. We'll make a time and read all those out for you. You can as well join in the discussion by leaving your suggestions, questions, and whatnot, contributions, and all of that on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. I also make a time and read all those messages up for you. Tonight on Hot News, we are still looking at the controversial e-levy. This time around, the clergy actually visited ex-President John Dramani Mahama in order to dialogue and look at the way forward, the forward march of this country, look at the economic situation and see how best, I mean, of course, he can also add his voice in order to get the minority in parliament to help pass or approve the e-levy. There, the former president responded to them and said that the fight by the minority, of course, the rejection of e-levy by the minority in parliament is a fight for democracy in this country, and that he is happy that the brawl that ensued in parliament actually awoken the consciences of the clergy. And I love that statement, by the way. He has also said that the e-levy is not a problem, but this government should know that now we have a hung parliament, something that has not happened before. And so they shouldn't think that they can always, find their way. They can always, get things through to parliament with force, without recourse to negotiations and all of that. He questioned why government had wanted to roll out this policy before, engaging the good people of Ghana and engaging the minority side in parliament. And of course, you know that after the minority resisted the approval of the e-levy on several occasions, the finance minister then decided to engage the minority side of the house. Now they are going from one region to the other in order to sensitize the good people of Ghana, to educate the good people of Ghana on the importance of the e-levy. So the former president actually questioned why that wasn't even done in the first place before the introduction of the e-levy and all of that. Let's listen to the clergy plus former President John Dramani Mahama when the church leaders actually went to pay him a courtesy call. Let's listen to them. We'll be right back.
This morning we are here on a peace mission, very peaceful. We have come, as I have introduced ourselves, as heads of churches of the various associations and groupings in Ghana. Our history has it that the church has played a very significant role in our development and in the welfare of our people. So as major stakeholders, when things become of concern, we are all to take it up and see how best we can find answers and resolutions to it, so that at the end of the day, what we preach and what governance is all about can be achieved, all to the glory of God. Getting to the last quarter of last year, we all experienced what our country has never experienced before, from the very beginning, from the very first month, when we had our parliament as it is now. As you rightly mentioned, whether we have a minority or we have a majority, but the hung parliament. Well, it came to the hills when they were about closing with the introduction of the budget and the e-levy and what went on the last but one day of Parliament, where there were exchanges resulting in some fights and all that. And the churches or the Christian bodies became alarmed and said, we will not sit, but we want to take a very bold step in and see how best together we can find solution to it. So we have made various approaches. We have met the Minister of Finance, we have met the majority in Parliament, the head, we've met some members of the minority, we also met the Minister of Finance again for discussions. Then our last meeting was with the President of the nation. When we also had very fruitful interaction with the Speaker of the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament. And we've seen that there are other major stakeholders for whom we need to also make approaches and see how best we can find answers to what is happening to us, looking at all the circumstances and the conditions around us, especially what is happening in our sub-region, not only looking at what is happening here in our country, but what is even around our sub-region. And it became very necessary at our meeting that the series of interventions and interactions, we cannot leave His Excellency, the former president, behind, but to also make a move to see him and see how best we can all have discussions and look at what is happening to us in our country, and if there is a way out by which we can all look at it and come to a resolution.
You get a detail of, what our concerns are, you understand the viewpoint from which we are coming. But I do think that this meeting is timely, and it's good to hear from all sides. And I'm sure that by the time you have heard what we have to say, you realize that the problem is much deeper than you think. And that's why I brought some of the MPs here. That fight was a fight for democracy. There's no way a speaker can sit in the chair, relinquish the chair, let somebody else come and sit in it, and take a vote in something that he has presided over. The Constitution is clear. You take a voice vote, ayes or nays. If somebody challenges it, it means that we don't agree with your choice. So you, the speaker, must sit in the chair and do a division. And then you say, I've done the division, the accounting, I'm now going to get out of the chair and let the second deputy speaker who has voted come and sit in so that I can also go and vote. I mean, our Constitution doesn't allow that. And it was felt that our MPs should sit timidly and let them pass this unconstitutionality. It won't happen. And so, yes, I'm happy that that rally scene has woken your consciences that you must intervene, because there's a lot that is happening in this country that if we don't intervene, it would upset our democracy. The Fourth Republic has been the most enduring, and we must protect it. And one of us must stand up and protect it. Dialogue is not just the only issue. Dialogue comes from the ruling party. We are in the position, we have nothing. If the ruling party says come and dialogue, of course we'll come and we'll sit and dialogue. If you are doing something like e-levy, why was there no dialogue before you introduce it in Parliament? It's only after you introduce it and there's a pushback. Then you say come and let's dialogue. But you go and set your 1.75% and then you bring it and say, because there's a pushback, the country is pushing back, the minority is pushing back, then you say, okay, let's dialogue. Okay, I'll give you 1.5. It's like we are negotiating in Makola. E-levy is not the problem. E-levy is a symptom of what has gone on for the last 4 years. I mean, government feels that it can ride roughshod over everybody, take its own decision, bring anything into Parliament, do whatever it likes, pass any, decisions that it wants without dialogue. After all, we are 169. And so the current 1.7, is a withdrawal symptom. And so government has to climb down from this high horse and realize that the people of Ghana have been tired of that tyrannical, dictatorial majority rule that we have carried out. Without consensus building, without dialogue, even if you're 169, it still helps to get consensus.
Right, that was former President John Dramani Mahama with the clergy over there. And, I mean, you heard his response and everything to the clergy. Of course, there has been another pastor who has been praising President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. There's a pastor, or I don't know, whoever he is, but I mean, there's a pastor called T.D. Jakes, and he has praised President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. According to him, President Akufo-Addo has transformed Ghana. T.D. Jakes heaps praises on President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, let me read, few of the things he said about President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And the story says the Bishop of the Potter's House and international television preacher T.D. Jakes has described Ghana's President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo as a transformational leader changing the fortunes of this country. In short video clips shared on Twitter, the globally known preacher read out from some notes that were in his hand to his congregation while announcing to them that President Akufo-Addo will speak at the event at their church later this month. The event, the International Leadership Summit, will be graced by the President among other leaders, he added. Praising the President further, T.D. Jakes explained how he has been impressed by the work of President Akufo-Addo, which have led to big brands like Twitter setting up offices in Ghana. I have for some time watched with amazement the President of the Republic of Ghana and the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will speak at our International Leadership Summit this month. And in case you are not up to speed on how things are going on in Africa, Ghana is one of Africa's wealthiest countries. I see. T.D. Jakes, are you here in Ghana with us? According to him, Ghana is one of the Africa's wealthiest countries. Okay? Quote, he has immediately turned it around. It is the largest producer of gold on the continent and the world's second largest producer of cocoa under President Akufo-Addo. His leadership, Ghana has emerged as a booming tech center. Even welcoming Twitter is moving to Ghana. Africa's headquarters of Twitter is going to be there, he said. T.D. Jakes also praised the efforts of President Dankwa Akufo-Addo in making Ghana and Africa more attractive for the rest of the world. President Akufo-Addo is also working to transform Ghana into key travel destinations for Americans, but particularly for African Americans and the African diaspora, and progressively promoting investment in the country. Over the last couple of years, Ghana's government has set aside 500 acres of land for foreigners looking to resettle there, he said. Describing him as smart, T.D. Jakes also praised the great transformation that the president has brought to Ghana in the last few years, that he has been a leader. All these, he added, are marks of great leaders. And I quote, "The man is brilliant. He is just smart." I was watching him being interviewed in Paris, and the guy was, of course, speaking to him in French. And the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, speaks English quite fluently and several other languages fluently. And when he started speaking French to the man, and the president turned and started speaking back to him in French, it speaks to his global ability. I went to Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, many years ago, and it was about a 7-year gap since I've been there before. When I first went there, there were a lot of dirt roads and people in just meager gear and what have you, and very few buildings and nice hotels. And 7 years later, I came back and there were inner states, highways, hotels, 5-star accommodations, restaurants everywhere. There is nothing like great leadership. He passed. Corrections to, the bishop, with all greatest respect. When he came here 7 years ago, well, there may be some changes, some few changes and all of that. But Ghana isn't what you have described it to be in your statement. Let's be truthful. You're a pastor, and we must be quite truthful to ourselves. 7 years ago, there were good hotels in this country. So many restaurants, very good ones, of course, in this country. This country wasn't like you have described it in your statement. I've been joined in the studio by Mr. George Esi, Director of Communications for NADROM. Says good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful.
It's a pleasure.
You are one of the few people, at any time I call, you make it a point to be here, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for your time. Also in the studio is A.A. Gafaru. A.A. Gafaru is Northeast or Deputy Communications Officer, Northeast Region for the National Democratic Congress. Gafaru, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening, Justice.
How is Honorable Alhaji Baba Seidu Isifu?
Wow. The man is working even more than President Akufo-Addo in the constituency, just like his colleague MP Honorable Abed Bandim.
Honorable Abed.
Well.
Yeah.
You've interviewed him.
He's
before.
my friend.
Yes, you are doing a great job.
Very good. Right. Thank you so much, Gafaru. But I'll start with you, Mr. Esi. I believe that you've read the response given to the church leaders by ex-President John Dramani Mahama on the issue of e-levy. And of course, they paid a courtesy call on him in order to get him, add his voice to the controversial e-levy and how things are going on in the country currently. He has said that, well, he supports, what happened in Parliament, and that was a fight for democracy. But he is also happy that brawl really awoken the consciences of the church leaders and all of that. A statement in the right direction?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to you. My colleague, Gafaru, it's good to see him again.
Right.
And good evening to our viewers. The issue of e-levy, the visits by the clergy to the former president, office, I suppose.
Yes.
And they are supposing and assuming that he's an important figure in the political discourse, because constitutionally he's not a leader of the NDC. Yeah, so until he assumes that position, he's a prominent figure, a Ghanaian citizen and former president, and a key person in the NDC. And it is a fact that he wields some influence on the minority caucus in Parliament. And so it's just proper that the leadership of the clergy decided to pay a visit to him and engage him in matters of national importance, such as the issue of the e-levy and the controversies generating in Parliament. And the former president, has also said that he supports the position of the minority, especially in the brouhaha that ensued in Parliament.
Right.
Because he sees it as a defense of democracy, which democracy I shudder to comprehend, that a minority group decides to go and take the chair of the speaker, the one in chair, because they disagree with him. Is that the right way to go protecting democracy? I thought the August House is for brain power, okay? And so if brawl begins to take over, then it's problematic, especially...
He believes that the Speaker of Parliament should have known better, that he wasn't supposed to vote. But a situation where you allowed the Deputy Speaker to go and vote for him to come and assume the seat for you to also go and vote is one that we shouldn't encourage. And
it is constitutional. It is very constitutional. It is constitutional. I have said, it's unfortunate my constitution, we have resolved that issue. Yes. So I have said it is very constitutional that the Speaker, I knew that will happen, that the first Deputy Speaker presiding will allow the second Deputy Speaker to finish voting and then swap positions because until and unless we accept that any of the two Deputy Speakers, whether presiding or not, are still members of Parliament, because the Constitution has made it clear that when you are a member of parliament and elected a speaker, you resign as a member of parliament. Your seat becomes vacant. But it didn't say so for the 2 deputies because they are to assist. And so how come crucial decisions involving their constituents, you say they cannot have a say because they have taken up an additional responsibility of helping the speaker discharge his responsibilities? No. And so that one, I think that His Excellency, the former president, got it wrong. And the minority got it wrong. Okay? I have said that, and it's in the Constitution. Because when the Constitution wants something to be done otherwise, it states it clearly. Okay, that is the issue, because I made the argument that the Constitution says when a speaker is made a minister of state or a deputy minister, he must resign. And it went on to say same applies to the deputy speakers. But it didn't say so for, and again, the argument that the speaker has neither an original nor a casting vote. Yes, because the speaker is not a member of parliament. I've made this argument many times, and it's clear. The speaker is not a member of parliament, so why and how can he have a vote, an original and casting vote? So I'm happy the former president received the clergymen in the way he did, but it's unfortunate. I thought some of the commentaries were a bit below the belt.
Well, he also thought that,
yes,
well, gone were the days where the MPP had some 160-something members of parliament.
Yes.
And so they were able to go to parliament with all their policies. They used the majority to sail through and all of that. They bulldozed their way with the majority and all of that. Now we don't have such a parliament. And there will be a need for negotiations and consensus building.
Very, very important.
But he thinks that this government currently, even of course thinks that we are in the previous dispensation where they can get away with everything in terms of, approval of policies and all of that in parliament. So they are behaving as if, we are in an era of tyranny and all of that. He made such comments.
I disagree with him. It's true that we need to acknowledge that it's not that majority that we have. It's a split parliament that people would describe it as hanged. And that is where negotiation, lobbying, mutual understanding and concessions are made. And the minority brought 5 points of issues that they want us to tackle. We tackled 4 of them headlong. And then the 5th one, the major one, we made some concessions from 1.75 to 1.5 and then negotiated with the telcos to reduce by 0.25, which makes it a net effect of 1.25 on the customer or the consumer. And so that is some concessions that we have made. And so this should be something that His Excellency, the former president, should appreciate, that the majority acknowledges the importance of the minority and has made some concessions so that we can have a win-win situation and be able to pass the e-levy. But they have been adamant to say no. Whether it's 0.1, they will not accept it. And so we said, okay, fortunately, the Constitution did not give a ceiling of, say, 2/3 or this percentage before it can pass. Okay, there are certain clauses and decisions that demands, but it says half of the House must be present and voting. And half means 138 in this case. And so if that is the case, we have that 138 and an ability to marshal that number. And if the minority is being recalcitrant, or forgive my choice of adamant, and not ready to accept, make concessions and co, in spite of the fact that we have made a lot of concessions, then it's worrying. So we can say that we are going to depend or rely on our numbers to push the thing there.
He could not fathom why, prior to the introduction of the e-levy, government didn't consult, the other side of the house on, of course, their take, their view and all of that, until after they had rejected it on several occasions before they had wanted, or they would want to engage the other side of the house to see if a reduction and all of that would actually work. which he think that was in a bad faith. I mean, government shouldn't have acted in that manner.
Why? Why? The government thought you put this in the budget, it's come there, the minority says no. Then it's not, okay, if you think you're not going to be, let's engage. It's a good thing. The government has been magnanimous and respectful to the minority by doing that. If initially it thought, oh, let's go, it's in our budget,
after they had wanted to force it, through. And
no, they were going to vote on it. We know we have the number to get it.
We heard of consultations after the minority rejected it on several occasions.
Yes, the minority said no.
The government should have done that prior to.
Oh, come on. There's nothing. It's a better late than never. And what is important is that there's engagement and there are concessions being made. The 5 points the minority put on the table, has government acted on them? Yes, government has acted on them. Okay, the benchmark values, the Qatar sea defense issues and all that. Okay. Government had taken steps and has done something on these things. And so I thought the minority, yes, they've taken an obstinate position. We know the former president, the general secretary, and others from outside of the house are pulling strings and resolved that these e-levies shouldn't pass. We know the obvious reasons for that, okay? It's not because they care about the Ghanaian, because this former president introduced over 17 taxes and imposed them on the Ghanaian, okay? This government came and reduced or removed all those taxes, okay? So it cannot be the case just for political expediency. That is why they are making things the way they are doing. But as to whether defending democracy, I cannot understand. Because, look, the e-levy is meant to raise revenue. We have made the argument that if you look at the debt profile, as of now, it will not be too good for us to continue our borrowing when we have to find homegrown solutions, alternatively to raise revenue, to be able to roll out some of the developmental programs and projects that we need to have, because we are anticipating raising a revenue of 100.1 billion and then expenditure of about 135.6 billion. This government has made another concession there that we're going to cut expenditure by 20%, okay, in the 2022 budget. So these are all concessions that we have made so that we can operate within our revenue range and then be able to pay our debts and other things.
If you listened to the former president, he said categorically, he said in his response to the church leaders that the e-levy is not a problem. The problem is government and how it forces its way through parliament and would want to get away with everything it takes to parliament. And he thinks that that is not right.
Well, what about that?
Sense,
what about that? I don't get it. Well, it's the name of the game is numbers, right? The name of the game is numbers. Once we don't have the number, you do the negotiation. That's it. Lobbying and all that.
You don't have the numbers.
No, if you don't have the numbers,
the other side.
If you don't, because look at this.
Your way every time.
No,
that is right.
No, in parliamentary, they say the majority has their way, its way, and the minority have their say. Is that not what it said? You get it. But now, because it's a hung parliament and there's a risk that you take because it's happened before in the election of the speaker, right? In the election of the speaker, secret balloting, and then we saw what happened and tilted the thing to the advantage of the minority. So when you're going, you ought to be measured and cool. Yes, consultations, negotiations, engagement. That's what the finance minister has embarked on. Nationwide consultations. They've gone to Koforidua, moved to Takrady, moved to Tamale, okay? And so that's all to engage the citizenry. We've engaged civil society organization, we've engaged the minority, but they've been adamant and they've been taken, they've resolved they are not going to cave in. And so that is the issue that is a bit worrying. So once you have the number and you believe, or you can ship your number to do what you want, why not? After engaging them for some time, they are not trying to cave in. You must move on. Take your chances and move on.
Finally, before I come to Gafaro, the clergy has been heavily criticized by some section of Ghanaians. They are of the view that they have been very quiet on current issues pertaining to the economy, until the issue of e-levy and the brawl in Parliament, and until we are unable to find any headway to the approval of the e-levy before they had to step in. And where they had to go is even the former president. They think that the clergy should have come out long ago on issues pertaining to, some of these things, or issues of this magnitude. Would you agree with people who are criticizing the clergy?
I disagree with them. I disagree. The clergy is made of men of wisdom, okay? And a lot of them are very intelligent. Well, we had some of them who were professors. We had some of them who were talking about the economic quagmire we faced some years back. Where are those people today if they are men of conscience? They are really men of conscience, because if you have self-inflicted doomsday for 4 years plus, okay, and another government that has been doing well, average growth of 7%, and then there is a pandemic, or there was a pandemic and the whole world was hit, and you want them to criticize that government as the previous that made self-inflicted doomsday and caused a lot of people to lose jobs and go.
Doomsday has been with
self-inflicted doomsday. No.
Unless you want to deny the fact that during President Kufuor's time we had doomsday.
We had doomsday briefly.
There was
and
then
under President
Mills, and there was
it was so with 4 years running, my brother. None of those people had 4 years.
Do in solving the issue?
None of those governments had 4 years doing so. And so if you do that, and there's a world pandemic, I liken it to ravages of war. And so every person with conscience will know that no, you don't go criticize, especially when we shut down an economy for 3 weeks running. And then everything the world over, the movement became slow. It was difficult. For 1 year, schools had to shut down. A lot of the tourism sector was virtually closed down, shut down.
Right.
This men of conscience will see that no, you don't use the same brush to paint these two governments. And so they've been up to the task, and they've observed and they've done what they ought to do. At this time, they've moved to the former president because they know his influence on the minority.
We are in a country where unemployment is very rife in recent times.
Yes.
We are in a country where inflation is going up. We are in a country where fuel prices are going up day in, day out.
No.
These were some of the things the clergy was then complaining about in the previous.
Let me tell you the difference again. Let me tell you the difference again. They are men of conscience, because if you took a liter of petrol at 80 pesos, and you more than quadruple it, you more than quadruple it to about 4 cedis 15 pesos, and another takes it from 4 cedis 15 pesos, it hasn't even doubled it. And you're saying what? In the face of international pricing of Brent crude and others that we consume here a lot. So everybody will look at it. This person multiply by 5 plus, and this one even not by 2. And the rate, I've said it many times, that if you crunch the figures, this government is doing far better than the NDC did.
I see.
Okay? In terms of exchange rate depreciation, in terms of fuel pricing, in terms of all those things. 6.6, yeah, 6.6 from 4.2. From 4.2, yes, from 4.2.
Okay.
And when you take it from 1 city,
if you check total tonight, you have increased fuel once again. Anyway, but I'll come back to you.
So he brought all those things in. So we need to speak to that.
I'll come back to you.
So this government is doing their challenges. I wouldn't sit here and pretend that we're doing better. Inflation is still under 15. It's 10 point something. We're not to 15.4.
You're still watching Hot News Radio on African Television with me, Justice Appiah. That was Mr. George, AC Director of Communications for NADBO. Now let me come to A.A. Gafaru, Northeast Deputy Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress. Gafaru, you've listened to ex-President John Dramani Mahama, and looks as if he is in support of the brawl that the minority members of Parliament engaged in Parliament over the approval of the e-levy. He has also made a profound statement that brawl, of course, awoken the consciences of the clergy, and he's happy now that now they are coming out to look at how we all can, can solve the economic quagmire we've entangled ourselves in. Your take on that?
Good evening once again, Justice, and good evening to my brother George Ayisi and to your cherished viewers tonight. Tonight, I must say, my posture would, in a way, be different because of what is happening, the hypocrisy that is happening. In fact, the crystal clear hypocrisy that is happening in this country. Of course, e-levy, I would say, as we've been saying, is a pickpocket policy. It is a robbing policy. And of course, even if it is classified as tax, we never told this government to promise us that, and Ghanaians that, they would move from taxation to production. We never coerced them to tell the Ghanaian people or to fabricate the popular expression that the popular expression nuisance tax. We never coerced them, and no Ghanaian ever coerced them.
But according to them, they scrapped about 17 taxes when they took office, from the previous government.
In fact, that very nuisance taxes that they fabricated, especially, most especially the ESLA,
right?
That they coined and fabricated and made it as part of their propaganda tool to tell Ghanaians that it is a nuisance tax. When they came, what did they do? They brazenly disregarded their own propaganda and then went ahead. Not only did they not scrap it, but of course, they have since extended and increased the percentage of ESLA. And of course, they have introduced a new aspect of ESLA, and that is the 18% on every kilo of gas, which we never introduced.
Right.
That is the level of dishonesty. And let's say that this kind of tax, as we all know, or is it levy, the pickpocketing policy, is coming to exacerbate the predicament of Ghanaians.
Why do you describe the
anguish
as
of Ghanaians?
Pickpocketing
Pickpocketing, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
To exacerbate their anguish, their pain. That is what it is coming to do. To actually aggravate the current economic quagmire that Ghanaians are facing. Their economic predicament. That is what it's coming to do. And let's note that already the Ghanaian people are reeling under the raft of taxes. And yet they haven't seen that. They are trying to compound and complicate their situation and our situation. And before I deal with or wade into what he has made, the expressions, the comments he has made, I want to ask some imperative questions, highly of pertinence. Were the clergy, and I hope the clergy, they never went in the name of Christian Council, they never went in the name of the Muslim coalition, they never went in the name of the so-called Peace Council. And of course, let me say, if they had gone in the name of the Christian Council, the Peace Council, or the Muslim coalition, in fact, tonight, my gesticulations would have looked like as if I'm even going to knock someone. Thank God they went in the name of a group of clergy. But I want to ask questions which are highly imperative. Were they in this country at the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Ghanaians were suffering and were in trepidation, fearing for their life, and then the Electoral Commission pushed them to come out and compile irrelevant biometric, so-called biometric electric voters data? Were they in this country? Were they in this country when there was military buildup in the voter region simply to suppress the number of people who are eligible to vote, to register and vote, for that matter? Were they in this country when the Appiah was so state-sponsored terrorists, state-sponsored militants, shooting erratically onto fleeing unarmed civilians? Were they in this country? And I also, the main people up to now, they haven't even, with the recommendation, they haven't even compensated them. Were they in this country? Were they in this country when the Techima shooting, the kind of shooting and killing of Techima, Savulugu, and then Banda, were they in this country when innocent Ghanaians were killed? Have they ever commented? Were they in this country when people went, military and professional military went and then shot at fleeing innocent civilians? Were they in this country? Where were they? Were they in this country during the incursion, the illegal invasion of military in our parliament? Were they in this country? Were they in this country when we all witnessed the crystal clear electoral fraud? Were they in this country? Yeah, anyway, why are they not concerned about the incessant arrest of Ghanaian journalists and then people who are critical of this government? People who are critical on the dictator in a democratic suit, that is President Akufo-Addo. People who are critical of the dictator in a democratic suit and his epigons and his people. Are they in this country? Why are they not concerned to speak about that? Why haven't they gone to visit President Akufo-Addo, the dictator in a democratic suit? Why haven't they gone to visit him and then to speak on those issues?
They did. They went to the president. They went to the minority, side of parliament. They met the majority in parliament before going to the former president. In fact, John Dramani Mahama.
The litany of issues that I have stated, they never spoke about it. That is what I am particular about, because they were things that could bring anomaly in this country. And of course, even, let me say, prior to all this, and then in the face of all these kind of injustices, we in the NDC and some stakeholders in the country, civil society organizations, call on them persistently to come up and speak, raise their voices, because this country was at the brink of civil disturbance. They remain obstinate not to talk. Of course, they remain obstinate not to talk. And they never spoke. This time around, I would suggest to them that they should even remain taciturn, quiet, not to speak, because that would expose their absolute hypocrisy. Absolute hypocrisy.
You mean that the clergy is,
engaging in some
sort of hypocrisy?
If we called them persistently to speak about all the issues, all the injustices I've spoken about, and they remain obstinate not to talk, not to cough, they turn blind and they turn deaf, never to speak. Today, I would suggest to them that they should remain taciturn if the e-levy is not passed. They should remain quiet, even if they know that perhaps they wish that we pass it. They should remain quiet. Let me come and ask, you see, Justice, what is good for the goose must always be good for the gander. And let me be very fast. Post 1845 war or 44 war, there's this kind of confessional prose by a well-known German Lutheran pastor, who, and it is in fact a plaque by his grave. His name is Martin Niemöller. Martin Niemöller stated that they came for the socialists. I never spoke out because I wasn't a socialist.
Yes.
They came for the trade unionists. I never spoke out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I never spoke out when they were in concentration camps because I wasn't a Jew. And then when they came for me, there was none to speak for me. Today, we all know when President Akufo-Addo, dictator in a democratic suit, was going after the very beginning, his own party members, the chairman and then the secretary, people were quiet because they weren't members of the NPP. When they started coming after opposition members after their victory, after judges, after policemen, after opposition members, particularly NDC, people never spoke because, especially, I'm referring to the journalists, you the journalists, because you weren't opposition, you weren't the judges they attacked, and you were quiet, you never spoke out. And then, when they started coming for you, the journalists, and that is Manasseh Azure and then his other people, the likes of those who were murdered, Ahmed Swale and co. Khaled Kuda, your sister station, when they came after him, also the WhatsApp news editor, when they came after him, no one was there to speak for you. Again, the pastors never spoke, the clergy never spoke, until the one who attempted to speak, and that is one of them is, I think, my beloved pastor, Ajina Sare. When he started to speak, Kennedy Ajapong came after him. When what that particular prophet, Nigel Gacy, wanted to speak, Kennedy Ajapong was a sniffing dog that they made to pounce on him. just to silence him with all kind of fabrications, mendacious attempt to run down their integrity, to run down their image, to run down their respectful denominations. People were not there to speak. And I am saying that it seems this particular group of clergy, they are suffering from what we call anterograde amnesia in medicine. Anterograde amnesia.
What does it mean?
In fact, a short-term forgetfulness. Something will happen just 5 days ago, 2 days ago, and all of a sudden you will forget. That is an anterograde amnesia. They seem to be suffering from that because they've even failed to realize that it is coming closer to they themselves. Because it has gone through across the country. It has gone to almost everybody, every voice. CSOs, they has been attacked. CSOs has been attacked incessantly. You understand? So they have failed and they have not taken caution to realize that this creeping danger and silence and moving back to the dark ages is getting closer to that very group who went to President John Dramani Mahama to even get the temerity, the moral right to speak about e-levy. Come on, come on. It's this kind of clear hypocrisy. And we are saying, look, we still stand. And the Ghana 137 MPs remain resolute and remain steadfast to opposing this obnoxious draconian e-levy. And we will never see to the passage of it. This is not the day of the past parliament. This is a time. And I heard Mr. saying that it is a split parliament. When have they got to realize that it's not a split parliament? Were they not those claiming majority? Why don't they use their majority to railroad, to, in fact, bulldoze their way out? They are now coming gradually to their conscience because we've been able to praise them, to let them know what democracy means.
Are you in any way suggesting that because the clergy didn't speak on some of those issues you've mentioned today, if the country is having a problem and they've recognized the problem, they think that they can step in, they should keep quiet? Is that what you are suggesting? And
I'm not actually or specifically saying that they should keep quiet. They should remain, because once they keep quiet, maybe they are not bothered. But what I'm saying, and I am specific, they should remain taciturn. And the word taciturn means even if they are disturbed, they should remain quiet, knowing very well that they wanted to actually intervene. So they should remain taciturn, never to speak, because it exposes a clear and absolute hypocrisy. Absolute hypocrisy. And Ghanaians are not that dumb not to understand their position. Ghanaians are not. And you will see that, look, there's one thing, particular trend I realized. Those who came, they weren't, most of them, they were not very known faces. They were not familiar faces like Reverend Mate. They weren't the familiar face like the leaders of the Christian Council. And the Muslim coalition, they have even remained quiet and they seem to be hiding. Peace Council seems to be an obliterated organization. You can't even find their whereabouts. Today I was moving and I saw their, this is what is behind Parliament. I saw their signposts. And I said, these people, do they still exist? Because the door was firmly locked, rusted, indicating that, in fact, it has been almost a decade they haven't even sat.
I see.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that, look, it is time for us to, just like President Mahama stated, that kind of brawl, that kind of scuffle, and near total disorder in Parliament has awakened their conscience. It is speaking volume. It's speaking volume. And if they actually have that conscience that all Ghanaians are crying and asking, when they go and then sleep, lie down, they would think that they would get to realize and meditate over the words of His Excellency, former President Mahama. They will meditate over it.
I see.
And they will bow down their head in shame. Of course, they will bow down their head in shame.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gafaru, for your submission. Now, Mr. C would want to respond to some of the things you've said. Mr. C, you have the floor.
We said we are moving from taxation to production.
Yes, you promised that.
Yes, and we are on course as far as that is concerned. That's why we are building the one district, one factory, and regional assemblage plants, vehicle assemblage. We know the number of VW, Renault, and others that are assembling in Ghana, and all those things are the gradual way of structurally changing the economy of Ghana to become a production hub for the West African sub-region and maybe even Africa as a whole. He described the biometric thing as irrelevant and all that. And he had charitable words for the members of the clergy. I personally will pardon him for that. We Christians, we say, touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm.
But when the prophets are misbehaving,
be careful.
we touch
I don't
them.
see what misbehavior. These are the people who have taken
but,
the step
but I mean, those
to speak to
but
the
he asked them very relevant questions.
Right? Yes.
Where were they when series of things have happened in this country and they were quiet? They were mute.
Good. When a party, where were they when the party chairman for the NDC made comments as to kidnapping, killing people to make the nation ungovernable and then push it on the government? Where were they? Okay, so he should ask. He should also answer. So what is happening? Right? What is happening when? Who knows who is behind the killing of those people during the election? You can tell, especially when I listen to the tape. And then I look at events thereafter. It tells me a lot. It tells me a lot. So I'm not going to be this thing. And then he spoke about crystal clear electoral fraud. And I said, what? Wait a minute. Is A. Gafaro in Ghana? Is he an NDC guy? They said there was fraud. They went to the Supreme Court. Their general secretary was seated, given a calculator, and then he was asked, what was your collated figure for the second defendant they didn't have? What was the collated figure for yourself? Then he did it. And he moved to the Supreme Court without a pink sheet, single. And yet they are saying there were fraud. I said, what is this? Let's stop the joke, okay? Let's stop the joke and be serious. Ghana is a serious country, and we need to engage in serious discourse. And he said again, he repeated what JM, His Excellency, said. JM said Ghanaians have short memory. And he has also repeated that in a different language, that we have short memories, you know.
I'll give you a chance to.
He said that in a different language, and I was surprised. I said, wow. You believe that we have short memories? We cannot remember things? We know we don't have short memories. We have deep-seated memories, and when the time comes for us to recount what you said and what you did,
I think that
we'll be able to.
What he said was that it looks as if the clergy is suffering from, yes, and which translates into, I mean, forgetfulness, quick forgetfulness, short forgetfulness.
Is that not short memory?
But are they not indeed? Do they not appear as though they are suffering from the medical term he used? Because if people were shot in this country and you kept mute, if a lot of things happened in this country and you are not talking, and today you are supporting e-levy and calling on other persons to come and support it, are you not being
because they want development for the
people? Are you not engaging in some sort of
development for their church members? That is what the NDC is scared of. They want development for their church members.
I see.
They want development for the nation. They want the youth to get jobs. They want opportunity to be created. They don't want us to go back to IMF to get our free SHS cancelled, so that a lot of people who have had opportunity to have secondary education because of this policy will lose out, okay? The young people coming will lose out, okay? This and the myriad of opportunities that has created for the Ghanaian people. So please, that is what the clergy think about, the welfare and the progress of the Ghanaian, okay? And that is how come they felt, let's talk to the one we believe has the influence on the minority. But whatever it is,
why is it that when it has to do with the other political party resisting something, or the other political party, ruling, and the clergy thinks that things are not going on well, they find their voices. But when it has to do with, any other party than the other party, then they have lost their voices. It looks as if that is what they do.
Party than other party.
I'm talking about when the NDC was in power. We had the clergy. We had the numbers. We had,
we had the numbers.
Wait a minute.
When is about decision in Parliament?
We had about Programmati, Yes,
things were going bad.
And all of that.
Things were bad.
Things are not better today either. Are things better today?
Yes, things are better today.
Things are not better today either.
There are challenges because of COVID. Okay?
The clergy, they are enjoying. Their church members are enjoying.
Some other
Ghanaians are suffering.
Comparatively, it's better than it used to be. Okay? If the prices of petrol rose over 400%, okay?
But today, are they able to buy petrol
is rising
themselves?
about 80%. And you are telling me it's worse than it was? No.
How much was I buying a liter of fuel somewhere, 6 years ago, and how much is it today?
Yes, that's what we are looking at.
So I'm
so you're
that
buying
today,
at 4 cedis, 15 pesos. And today you're buying it at even 7 cedis, 99 pesos.
Almost 8 cedis.
Yes, it's not double. But you took it as 80 pesos. Double is 1 cedi, 60 pesos. And then you move to 4 cedis, 15 pesos. You get it? It tells you that this government is managing it better than it was managed then. But COVID brought challenges. Nobody can run away from that fact. And it's global. And that has even brought imported inflation. What I meant by that is we didn't impose any tax at the ports. Okay? But containers that were brought prior to COVID at maybe 10,000 and cleared at 10,000 and others, today are being cleared at over 15, 18, 19,000. Okay? Those are the imported inflation, and they will pass on the cost to the consumer.
The clergy calling on the ex-president to add his voice, and of course, wanting to support the introduction of e-levy. Did they also ask a government to account for the loans they've taken, the taxes they've collected, and of course, during COVID era, some donations that were made, some, loans that were taken and all of that to the good people of Ghana before asking Ghanaians to contribute.
The minority, we have a hanged parliament. A minority is in parliament for accountability purposes. Okay? So are you saying the Auditor General's report is not what we should depend on?
But the report also indicated that we've lost about 12.3 billion.
No, the report didn't say that 10 billion of that. No, 10 billion of that is debts that have not been paid back. It's not something lost. I have made the argument. 10 billion is debt that is to be paid. And as of the time the auditors were doing their work, had not been paid back. Okay? So it cannot be something that is lost. Okay, so please, let's put it in proper perspective.
I see.
Then we go ahead. And as for the property accountability matters, the loans that has been taken, the revenue accrued and all that, governance is going on. They are seeing the road infrastructure that is going on.
Where are they?
It's all over the place. Okay, the minister, I understand, but the honorable, right honorable speaker has asked the chairman of the, I think the roads committee in parliament to furnish him with, the road minister to furnish him because the chairman, Kennedy Osenyako, has made certain statements that over 3,600 kilometers of road have been constructed. And I tell you, let's go, I stand to be corrected, but if my memory serves me right, the Mills Mahama administration tarred roads and didn't exceed 3,900 kilometers. Okay. Right. These are facts, and President Kufuor. So let's get it. Let's get the data and then interrogate them. These are the stark reality. Okay. Right. You do certain things in major cities, and then you say, "Hey, that's no." The roads we have done far exceed what President Mahama did, and the interchanges and all there for people.
Let's get going.
Okay. So please, Ghanaians. This government means well, and the social programs we are rolling out, it's serious. Banking sector
let's get going. My time is up.
This is a government that the Ghanaian should continue to support. The e-levy is for our own good. Right. Let's support and let's get things going for us.
Would you agree with people who are also calling on government to tax churches in this country? If of course, the clergy and the pastors today are saying that, okay, e-levy is good, then taxing churches, is also good. Would you subscribe to that?
I wouldn't subscribe to taxing churches.
Why would you subscribe to that? They are selling anointing oil and all of that.
Those ones must be taxed. I support that.
I mean, they are selling water, common water. Some are taking consultation fee.
The business of the church must be taxed, but the tithes and offering, no. I will not support
the
that.
church must be
because
taxed.
the church has built schools and others to support.
Individuals are building schools. Corporate organizations are supporting.
No, but the tithes and offering, no.
Yet
because they are doing
tax. The church must also pay tax.
I disagree. The business of the church must be taxed.
Can you take us home?
Actually, I don't know whether he was trying to obfuscate the reality as far as what I have stated is concerned. And he's moving into a propaganda and then a stylish way of causing a kind of rancor or malice as far as my relation with maybe some of the clergies I know is concerned. Let me come and say, he made mention that do not touch my anointed. Of course, the same gospel made it very clear that by their fruits ye shall know them. And of course, these people, by their fruits we shall know them. And that is why we need to put them in the right place, in their rightful place.
Right, okay.
And when you we talk about, you made mention that would he want or wish that they tax the churches? Of course, in 2018, this government wanted, his government, these people, they wanted to tax the churches. But for the minority and the NDC, and the outcry of Ghanaians, they would have done so. 2018. You understand? So, should we ask those particular clergy that there are various churches, let us pilot this e-levy in their various churches. Only their church members should register and let's pilot it for 2 months and see whether they will agree. So, I made mention about electoral fraud. The electoral fraud, it is not only the NDC that made mention that the election was full of fraud or it was rigged. In fact, indeed, their campaign manager made mention that the EC increased or padded votes of the NDC just like they padded votes of the MPP. Were we those who made mention that? Was it not in this country when in Kumasi they caught people, MPP guys, holding ballot boxes which were already templated for Nana Akufo-Addo? Was it not in this country when after a certificate was issued for them burning extra ballot boxes? And of course, when a colleague or one of our members went back to the printing press to pick what he has forgotten, and he went and then got to realize that they had already printed new set of ballot papers meant for Ashanti region.
But this issue went to
court and I'm saying that no, I'm giving you evidence, plethora of issues that show that it was rigged. And of course, your media and then Joy, they captured it and they have to rebend those new ones. And when we asked why those extra things were still there, they made mention that it is in anticipation of a rerun. And a rerun, as we all know, Justice, it is for only 2 candidates. But those that were printed was for almost everybody. And the Form C2 was not what we were expected. So,
Gafaro, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, Gafaro. Thank you so much.
You heckle.
This one time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us. Same time tomorrow. My name is Justice Appiah. But let me say a very good evening to Chairman Stephen Ofosu Ejare, Constituency Chairman for Eutu Senya East, constituency of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Chairman Stephen Ofosu Ejare, and also to Honorable Alhaji Baba Seidu, my own brother, also in person of Michael Otribefi. I greet you this evening, a member of Parliament for New Job and South constituency. He's Honorable Adjasa. Oh, okay, Honorable Adjasa. Is she in? All right. Make a time with us tomorrow. Goodbye.